and welcome back to another video. If you've read the A Song of Ice and Fire series, you'll know that there's a massive amount of characters. I'd say easily 3 to 4 times the number that you'd get in your average piece of fiction, and I'm just talking characters that actually make an appearance here. If you've also watched HBO's adaptation of the novels, you'll know that the number of characters has been whittled down to mostly just the essential cast. And for whatever reason, be it the season's short 10-hour runtime, just wanting to keep the narrative more focused for the casual viewers, or questionable creative differences, many characters never ended up making the cut into the story's transition to the small screen. Now, I totally get that you have to deviate and condense at least some things when you adapt any book series. It's just how the medium of film and television work. But that being said, I'd like to give you guys a look at who I think are the best characters that never made it into the show, and my speculation as to why they didn't. To all of my wonderful viewers that haven't yet read the books, don't worry, this list will be spoiler-free as long as you've watched the first 4 seasons. But I do hope that by showing off some of these great characters, it may even convince you to pick up the books. So, without further ado, here is part 1 of my list of the top 10 A Song of Ice and Fire characters that you never saw on Game of Thrones. Enjoy. Number 10. Strong Belwas. Starting off this list is Daenerys Targaryen's personal bodyguard and muscle. Raised as a slave and eunuch in Meereen, Belwas was a pit fighter before being sold around the free cities. Eventually he was bought by Magister Illyrio and Pentos, and was sent to serve and protect Daenerys. So, right away he might not seem that different from the rest of her army of eunuch warriors, right? Well, while the Unsullied are painted as pristine, disciplined, and even almost eerily sanitary, Strong Belwas gives zero shits when it comes to what other people think of him. Case in point, he fights the champion of Meereen on Dany's behalf, and succeeds, cutting off his opponent's head and holding it up for the rest of Meereen to see. They start firing arrows at him, but since he's just out of reach, he pulls down his pants, sticks his ass towards the city, and takes a big steaming crap on the ground. Then gets up, uses his dead opponent's cloak to wipe himself, pulls up his pants, loots all the money off the dead body, kills his horse, and walks off. Oh, and he always lets his opponents cut him once, but unfortunately that's exactly what HBO did. Number 9. Satin. Along with another Night's Watchman who made this list is Satin. While his character's arc of the scared boy that goes to the wall but becomes a man through the cruelty of winter and harsh lifestyle of the wall, yada yada yada, we've already seen about a half-dozen times. But Satin is interesting for the life he had before the wall, working as a gay prostitute in Old Town. When he inevitably meets up with Jon at the wall, and now take everything I say with a grain of salt, because this is really only what I took from it, he seems to develop a bit of a crush on Jon, taking inspiration from his actions at the Battle of Castle Black, volunteering to help him with whatever he needs, and while at first he said that he was a devout follower of the Seven, when it came to having to take his oath in front of Jon, he was quick to swear himself in front of a weirwood tree instead. I think the reason he didn't make it into the show is because, at the end of the day, his story is just way too similar to Sam's, starting out incompetent, but eventually becoming a huge asset to the wall. So, hands down, it's redundancy that's our main factor here. That, and HBO doesn't really have the greatest track record of adapting gay and bisexual characters. Renly, Loras, and Oberyn spent over half their screen time either talking about being attracted to men, having sex with men, showing how they think girls are icky, or just being a walking stereotype. So, I think I'd just be a little bit worried of how they would portray an already very effeminate-looking male who combs perfume into his hair. Call me cynical, but in a way I think we may have dodged a bullet here. A really, really offensive bullet. Number 8. Sir Courtney Penrose. After Robert won the throne, he named his youngest brother Renly as the Lord of the Stormlands, but since he also named him to the Small Council, Renly left the knight Sir Courtney Penrose in charge of the best and coolest looking castle in Westeros. And I of course say that without a hint of bias. Ahem. So, after Renly's assassination via creepy vagina monster, his brother Stannis began a siege on Storm's End, saying that as he is Renly's older brother, the castle is rightfully his now. Sir Courtney refuses until he has seen Renly's body, or at least has some confirmation from Sir Loras or Brienne, but as Stannis can't present any of these things, Sir Courtney grows suspicious of Stannis' involvement in Renly's death. He scorns Stannis' newfound religion, and his bannermen for being so quick to change sides, dishonoring Renly's memory. He then throws his glove straight into the face of Stannis and challenges him to a duel. Of course, needless to say, good old Courtney gets the shadow baby treatment for his refusal to cooperate. So, why is he so important if this is literally all he does? Well, it's because of the reaction of bitterness that turns into moral questioning that this provokes from Stannis. How his brothers were always more loved than him, despite their lack of leadership abilities. But seeing Sir Courtney's loyalty and love for Renly reminds him that deep down he did love his brother, and he even screamed in his sleep from horrible nightmares the night that Renly was killed. He knows he was left with no choice but to kill the brother who betrayed him, but he also knows that it's going to torment him until the day he dies. It brings up a great question to the readers. Is the road to hell paved with good intentions, or are hard decisions full of moral ambiguity just a part of what we have to do in life sometimes? But either way, the choices we make, we still have to live with. So why cut this great foil for Stannis? Well, I think it all came down to the sad fact that HBO just wasn't interested in spending any more time than necessary with Stannis in the second season. But man did I want this scene, and the character that embodies and triggers these moral challenges in Stannis. Number 7, Vargo Hoat. Probably one of the most over-the-top characters in the series is Vargo Hoat, the leader of the mercenary group the Brave Companions. Hoat is a pretty creepy-looking guy with a 2-foot-long Disney villain-style goatee and a gaunt face and swollen tongue that makes him lisp and slobber whenever he talks. Also, he rides a zebra. He was cut in name by HBO, but most of his important actions in the story, like cutting off Jaime's hand and throwing Brienne into a bear pit, were just taken up by Amory Locke, who in the books was a totally separate character, but I digress. The difference is that Locke in the TV series was just a massive jerk, where Vargo is a complete monster who would probably give Ramsay Snow a run for his money when it comes to cruelty. His favorite method of torture is to chop off the hands and feet of his victims one at a time, giving him the nickname the Crippler. Another big difference is that while Locke on the show very convolutedly ends up on the other side of the wall getting his neck snapped by Bran controlling Hodor, Vargo gets his ear bitten off by Brienne while trying to rape her, which turns gangrenous from lack of treatment. But refusing to give up the seat of Harrenhal, Vargo goes insane from the pain of his infection, and is found abandoned by the rest of his brave companions by Gregor Clegane and his men. Eventually we learn what happened to him through Tywin. Gregor gave him a taste of his own medicine by slowly cutting him up piece by piece, first his hands, then his feet, then his arms and legs. He was then kept alive and fed his own flesh. This carried on for months until Gregor finally put him out of his misery. My guess is that the show changed his character for the simple fact that his very out-there personality would sort of upstage Jaime's big character moments. As for his death, well, while I didn't really like Locke's end in the show, having Vargo's brutal death would have upstaged the torture again that Theon endures from Ramsay. I think in the end there just wasn't enough room for him in what ended up being a pretty busy season 3 of the show. Number 6, Edric Storm and Maya Stone. Now, granted that even in the books, Gendry is Robert's bastard that pops up by far the most in the story, but I think it's worth talking about 2 others that we get to meet too. Maya Stone is the oldest of Robert Baratheon's bastards. Her mother, an unknown woman, Robert bedded at the Eyrie while he was fostered there in his youth. Described as a tall girl who wears men's clothing and bears the trademark Baratheon black hair and blue eyes, Maya serves as a mountain guide for those visiting the Eyrie, helping them make the long and dangerous climb over the mule trails. Yet another woman in the series who kicks aside gender roles and loves the outdoors. It's a shame they couldn't have her feeding a mule a sugar cube in the background or something. Edric Storm, on the other hand, is a bit of a snobby kid who was fostered at Storm's End. While a lot of his current story in the books was actually given to Gendry, his story of conception is that on the night of Stannis' wedding to Selyse Florent, Robert being Robert grabbed Selyse's cousin Delena Florent during the celebration and headed up to the wedding couple's bedroom to get it on. Opposite to Maya, he isn't really all that interesting as a character, but how he came about is an important aspect of Stannis and Robert's strained relationship, and their very different ideals.